With no alternative voting means sanctioned by law, COVID patients or positive patients might not be able to cast their votes at all in next year's polls. 1 million more COVID vaccine shots arrived in the country yesterday. As Metro Manila nears herd immunity, officials are hoping for a major reopening by next month. A tragic mistake. That's how Pentagon described last month's fatal drone strike that killed many civilians, including children, in Afghanistan. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know to jumpstart your Sunday. I'm Riza Diaz. COMELEC says COVID-positive individuals may not be allowed to vote in the May 9, 2022 elections. That's according to a report by the Philippine Star. COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez said they never considered allowing COVID-19 patients into polling precincts to avoid a mass transmission of the virus. Jimenez adds that the law allows no other alternative ways to cast ballots other than in-person voting. He also clarified that the isolation polling precincts, which was announced by COMELEC Chairman Sheriff Abbas, will be for voters manifesting symptoms, but not for individuals already diagnosed with COVID-19. The Health Department earlier asked the poll body to allow alternative means of voting for those who tested positive, such as digital voting. The country received over 961,000 Moderna jabs yesterday. The delivery is part of the 2 million Moderna doses expected to arrive this month. Of these, about 712,000 will go to the government, while the remaining 248,000 will be for the private sector. In an interview, NTF Special Advisor Ted Herbosa said that most of the doses will be allocated to Calabarzon, Central Luzon, Cebu, and some parts of Visayas and Mindanao. And a small portion of the vaccines will be provided for NCR for those who have yet to receive their second dose of the shots.
Okay, so we have started to distribute these vaccines to the other regions outside NCR, no? So, a small portion goes still to NCR, yung mga second doses ng Moderna nila. And then, majority are going to Region 3 and Region 4A. And then also, this one will also go to Visayas, Cebu, and to Mindanao as well.
Meanwhile, after some delays, 190,000 Sputnik V doses also arrived yesterday. Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez said that these shots will be given to areas where the first doses of Sputnik V were delivered and administered, particularly Isabela, some areas in NCR, Bacoor, and some parts of Regions 3 and 4. Galvez added that 2 million Pfizer and 3 million Sinovac jabs are expected to arrive today.
We are apologizing for the delay of this component 2, considering that we have some supply issues, and we are very thankful that they fulfill the promise, and we are hoping that in the next deliveries there will be no more delay.
As Metro Manila inches closer towards herd immunity, officials hope that the economy will have a major reopening by October. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro gives us a front seat to the story.
With vaccination rates improving sharply in Metro Manila, officials are hoping for a major reopening of the economy by next month. According to MMDA Chairman Benher Abalos, more than 6 out of 10 Metro Manila adults have already gotten their full dose of COVID-19 vaccines. As of September 15, almost 9 out of every 10 Metro Manila adults have already gotten at least one dose, with their second dose expected by mid-October.
Hopefully, with the second dose, we will be hitting 79.3 or almost 80% of all of Metro Manila. That is about 8 million. At nakareserba na yan kay Sec Beans.
Metro Manila mayors are hoping that the rising vaccination numbers would lead to a further easing of restrictions in Metro Manila. The Department of Health earlier hoped to vaccinate at least 70% of the population to hit what is called herd immunity. That's the vaccination level at which the virus would no longer be able to spread efficiently. But the appearance of the more infectious Delta variant forced health officials to aim for a higher goal of 90%. Abalos said NCR could easily hit that number by December.
Halos 90% na tayo. The whole country, ito na pinaka-most vaccinated region. Kaya dito po ginawa itong experiment na ito, itong pilot na ito.
Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion hopes that in the last quarter of 2021, NCR will be placed under Alert Level 1, which allows all establishments to operate at full capacity.
Because this is when our entrepreneurs try to recover all what they've lost in the beginning of the year, no?
I'm Jacob Lazaro and we are One News. Okay.
Meanwhile, the OCTA research group clarifies that their recent pronouncement on Metro Manila's COVID-19 numbers are just preliminary observations. In an interview here on One News, OCTA reported that cases in the NCR may have already peaked based on initial indications. But research fellow Guido David explained that the group's observations are still subject to change. But the health department says it is still hard to determine for now.
But what we're seeing right now is, and what we said is that it may have already peaked. We're not saying it as something definite. We would like to see the trend continue for a few days. I mean, maybe for the coming days for next week.
David said COVID-19 reproduction rate in the metro has further decreased to 1.22 from 1.25. He also pointed out that the growth rate in the country has decreased significantly compared to the last few months.
But for the Philippines, for the entire country, we have a negative growth rate, negative 2%. That means this week's number for the past 7 days is lower than last week's number. And this is the first time we've seen a negative growth rate since July.
Recall that the health department reported over 23,000 fresh COVID-19 infections. The country's caseload now stands at above 2,347,000. The active case count also surged to more than 184,000. At least 255 more patients died due to the respiratory disease, while over 27,000 individuals have gotten better overnight. Now, out of some 73,600 recently tested, 26% yielded positive results. A group of experts have created health devices that aims to help in the country's pandemic response. They're developing masks and robots and everything in between. Judy Baiza gives us a front seat to the story.
5 to 7 years. That's how long the pandemic is projected to last, prompting some groups to develop new health devices to help the country's pandemic response. The UPC Ball, a group comprised of engineers and clinicians from the University of the Philippines, developed protective and disinfecting equipment. One example is the Sanipad, an equipment which helps health workers safely remove their used personal protective equipment.
It's a cubicle para ma-disinfect ang PPE ng mga exposed na healthcare workers or individuals. Kahit makalimutan nilang mag-hand washing or sigurado na ang hawakan nila wala nang pathogens. Well, I mean, wala na yung virus.
Sonipod cubicles are fully automated, sealed, and can disinfect from head to foot. Sonipod cubicles are also safer than tents since it automatically disinfects itself after each use. UPC Ball also developed a reusable face mask that is as efficient as an N95 mask but more economical since one mask may be used for up to 30 times. The mask follows facial features common to Filipinos. This prevents the mask from being too tight or too loose. It also comes in various sizes to accommodate everyone. They also created Clean Intubate, a device which can be used to disinfect laryngoscope blades used in intubation.
Ang cleaning method ay hawakan ng isang tagahugas yung blade, yung instruments na yan. So, ang gusto nila mangyari, Pagkatapos gamitin, papasok na lang dun sa device, automatic na yung disinfection niya and cleaning.
The group notes that plenty of health workers acquire COVID-19 after cleaning the devices used by patients. UPCBOL also designed My Beshi or My Bot, a robot that helps connect patients in isolation to their relatives and medical professionals.
Yung My Beshi, nandun lang siya sa tabi ng pasyente anytime na gusto niya makausap yung family.
Almost all of these devices are pending patent, made by Filipinos for Filipinos to help the public stay safe and for those infected to achieve fast recovery. Mobile Journal Julie Baiza, We Are One News.
The Pentagon says the fatal drone strike that killed multiple civilians in Afghanistan last month was a tragic mistake. More details in this video.
I'm here to brief the results of the investigation I directed following the report of civilian casualties from our strike in Kabul on 29 August. Having thoroughly reviewed the findings of the investigation and the supporting analysis by interagency partners, I am now convinced that as many as 10 civilians, including up to 7 children, were tragically killed in that strike. Moreover, we now assess that it is unlikely that the vehicle and those who died were associated with ISIS-K or were a direct threat to U.S. forces. I offer my profound condolences to the family and friends of those who were killed. This strike was taken in the earnest belief that it would prevent an imminent threat to our forces and the evacuees at the airport. But it was a mistake, and I offer my sincere apology. As the combatant commander, I am fully responsible for this strike and its tragic outcome. While I've begun with the most important findings of our investigation, I do want to provide the background leading up to the strike and include an explanation as to why we felt reasonably certain that this was a legitimate strike on an imminent ISIS-K threat, with no indication that the strike would result in civilian casualties, as we asserted in our initial statements. The strike on 29 August must be considered in the context of the situation on the ground in Kabul at Hamid Karzai International Airport, following the ISIS-K attack that resulted in the deaths of 13 soldiers, sailors, and Marines, and more than 100 civilians at Abbey Gate on 26 August, and also with a substantial body of intelligence indicating the imminence of another attack.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later again at 10 in the morning as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.